Today we're going over the 2023 fantasy football draft strategy that can win you your Yahoo Fantasy Football League this year. So the first thing obviously that we need to state, we need to get out in the open, is that every fantasy football platform is different. Whether you're playing on Yahoo, whether you're playing on ESPN, whether you're playing on Underdog, whether you're playing on Sleeper app, every one of these formats is different and every one of these platforms is different due to their scoring format, due to the ADP of certain players on each platform, and also due to positional importance and the rate at which they are going at each round. So we need to identify those differences today in Yahoo Fantasy Football as opposed to those other platforms. And I have been playing fantasy football for over a decade now, and I have constructed dozens and dozens of winning fantasy football rosters, which has given me the confidence to identify the right fantasy football draft strategy for different fantasy football platforms. So the first thing that I will say about my particular strategy, above all else, regardless of platform, my strategy is to target ceiling players round by round. I am going for the highest ceiling guys in each particular round on any different platform. Like I said, Yahoo, ESPN, doesn't matter to me. I am always going for ceiling. But it isn't just as simple as just going for straight up ceiling. If that was the case, I would be picking quarterback every single round just to maximize the amount of fantasy points that can be happening on my particular roster. We need to be smart about building a team in fantasy football, and also just to be smart about maximizing the ceiling at each position and each particular round while identifying great values round by round. That's another big thing, is finding great values round by round, because the reality here with value guys, value picks cannot be understated in fantasy football every single year. Last year, when you look at data on players most commonly on winning fantasy football teams, you can see it on the screen. There's plenty of mid to late round guys that were being drafted last year that became massive, and they were super pivotal in fantasy football in 2023. So this makes it so pivotal for us to find those particular values in the later rounds for them to be absolutely massive on our fantasy football teams and be league winners in 2023. And my personal job is to find those guys for you guys. So let's look at some of my favorite values on Yahoo right now. So let's start out with the running backs. I've got my top 4 running back values on the list right now. You can see it on the screen. The first running back on the list is Jonathan Taylor. He is the running back 11 right now, and he's going at pick 20. So basically, late second round is when you are getting a potential running back 1 in fantasy football. And I think the reason, obviously, that Jonathan Taylor has fallen this far is because of the hold-in situation right now. And I would just read a report that he's actually injured as well, and he may not be practicing for a couple more weeks. The Indianapolis Colts do expect him to be back with the team this upcoming week, though, if he is not already there by the time you're watching this video. What this tells me, and what I've been saying for basically this entire time with this Jonathan Taylor situation, he's gonna play. He's 100% going to play this year. You don't need to worry about it too much, to the point where you're not going to take a super high ceiling guy in the second round, late second round, just because you fear he's going to not play. He's going to play. His reality is he needs to play this year. He's coming off an injured season last year where he missed most of his time, and he really wasn't tremendous when he played. The last great season he had was in 2021. He's in the final year of his rookie contract. He is going to play, and he's going to be very efficient when he plays this year, because Anthony Richardson now poses a second running threat for opposing defenses. Pick Jonathan Taylor here. The value is tremendous. Then we've got Travis Etienne. I have been shouting about Travis Etienne all off season long on how you guys need to take Travis Etienne, especially in Yahoo leagues. He's the running back 18 off the board, and he is going at pick 38. The beginning of the 4th round is when you could get Travis Etienne. This is tremendous value. I view him as this year's Josh Jacobs. We're looking at Travis Etienne from the lens of last year, where he didn't get as much volume as he should have. He didn't have as many boom games as he should have last year. This year it's going to change, because last year, with James Robinson in the building and taking volume away from Travis Etienne weeks 1 through 7, Travis Etienne handled 46% of the team's running back carries. Then they shipped James Robinson out of the building for a bag of peanuts because he was no longer efficient. And on the other hand, Travis Etienne was. And during that time, he had 72% of this team's running back carries. This is important to note that they went 7-3 during that time. So NFL teams don't want to change what is working well for them, and what is well for them in their eyes is winning football games. For us, it's fantasy football, but we can follow that paper trail to what is important for NFL teams in particular. And when you look at last year's Josh Jacobs, what was the main concern this time of the year? The main concern was Zamir White, which is laughable to look back at, right? I think we're going to be looking at the same type of deal when we look back on Travis Etienne by January or even December, I think, of this year is when we can look back and say, it's funny that we were looking back and being really worried about Tank Bigsby. Love Travis Etienne at this value. James Cook, running back 33, pick 81. This guy is going to be, according to reports, the 3-down back in Buffalo this year. He's hyper efficient and he has pass catching upside. Those are the two things Buffalo wants from their running backs. And Devin Singletary, last year's running back 1 in Buffalo, finished as the running back 24. We could easily see that type of a finish for James Cook, and if that's the case, this is a massive value. And Alvin Kamara at running back 35 and pick 90, honestly kind of shocks me how Yahoo nobody is really getting that much bigger now that we know for certain and we have clarity on his suspension status. So it's interesting to me that Alvin Kamara has stayed pretty low in these rankings and in overall ADP, but this is a great value. He looked great in the preseason game for the New Orleans Saints just this past weekend. I really like Alvin Kamara in Yahoo draft specifically. Now let's shift gears and look at some wide receivers, my top 4 favorite wide receiver values in Yahoo leagues. Justin Jefferson may not sound like a value to you, right? He's going at the beginning of the first round. But let's put this into context. The wide receiver 1 in fantasy football last year is going as the pick 3 in your first round of drafts. If you are playing in a half PPR league, let's look around to other platforms. ESPN, he's going number 1. Underdog, he's going number 1. This is a guy who is absolutely a steal here, just 2 picks behind where he is usually slotted at in other fantasy football platforms. He's still the wide receiver 1 on the board, but you're taking Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler above Justin Jefferson. If you're here at pick 3 or even pick 2, Justin Jefferson is a great value for that. Then you've got Stephon Diggs. He is the wide receiver 5 at pick 12. So you're basically getting him at the end of round 1 or beginning of round 2. The wide receiver 5 this year, he was the wide receiver 4 last year. Stephon Diggs is a very good value here. I expect him to actually be better. And if nothing else, super consistent, super safe floor, super high ceiling here. Stephon Diggs is a great value at the back of the first round or beginning of the second round. And we've got Davante Adams, one of my personal favorites on this list, at pick 23, and he's the wide receiver 10 off the board. Basically, at the end of round 2 is when you were getting Davante Adams in a 12-man league. That is crazy to me. Crazy to me. Davante Adams, consistently a top 5 fantasy football wide receiver. Last year's wide receiver 3 or 2, depending on your format of scoring. This guy is such a steal here at the wide receiver 10 and the back of your second round. I love getting Davante Adams in Yahoo League specifically. I've already done it several times this offseason. And lastly, Amari Cooper, wide receiver 19, pick 50 off the board. This is excellent value. Beginning of your 5th round as the wide receiver 19 off the board, was the wide receiver 11 last year with an awful quarterback situation. Jacoby Brissett, back end of the season, had a rusty Deshaun Watson. This situation is so much better this year for Amari Cooper. I love getting Amari Cooper at the beginning of round 5. Now, one thing that I always see consistently every single year, and this is regardless of platform, honestly, I see a lot of people just wasting late round picks, and it honestly really does make me sad because it's not always just about picking a defense or maybe a kicker in the later rounds. That's wasting picks. Sometimes people just pick really low ceiling players that really don't have much upside. Remember, we need to be targeting ceiling, especially later on, because the reality with later round players is that none of them have a floor. That's why they're going so late. So the upside here is what we need to target, especially in those later rounds, because the higher the upside, the higher the swing you take, that is going to benefit your team if that particular guy hits. They've all got a low floor. That's why they're there. So that's why we need to target ceiling in this particular range. So let's look at some of my late round values that are top favorite of mine. Jerick McKinnon, running back 45, pick 118 right now. You're getting Jerick McKinnon in the back half of your draft, and this is a guy who finished as the running back 21 last year in half PPR. And apply what he did late season, which is really when he blossomed. Apply that to a full season, now that they are not going to be messing around with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. When Isaiah Pacheco comes back, he will be this team's running back 1. I love this value here. Getting Jerick McKinnon is a light shot, and like I said, doesn't have much of a floor, but the upside is absolutely there. And now I've got a really long string of rookie wide receivers that I really like the value of in Yahoo leagues particularly. Zay Flowers is a guy I am not targeting in any other platform besides Yahoo. Wide receiver 55, pick 139. Basically going in the 12th round right now. Zay Flowers this late is an absolutely worthy swing. No clear wide receiver 1 in Baltimore. The team is slated to throw the ball more with the new offensive coordinator. Zay Flowers, very electric rookie. This is an absolutely worthy swing this late in Yahoo leagues. Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver 75, basically going undrafted right now. No clear wide receiver 1 in New York either. This is a guy who tops out at 25 miles an hour. This guy is a blazer, man. He was a 3rd round pick in 2023. This guy is going to get involved early, especially if he can hit on these big plays. That's going to be great in fantasy football. Rashee Rice, wide receiver in the 3rd round for the Kansas City Chiefs. No clear wide receiver 1. Clear number 1 target, of course, with Travis Kelce. But as far as wide receivers go, it's not a 0% chance that Rashee Rice could be Juju Smith-Schuster from last year, who finished as the wide receiver 26 in half PPR. John Mechie of the Houston Texans coming into his 2nd year, but basically missed all of his rookie year due to cancer. Going undrafted as well. This is a very worthy swing. Houston, no clear wide receiver 1. John Mechie is the most talented one in that building. And Marvin Mims of the Denver Broncos, another rookie. This guy is going to be the wide receiver 3 at the very least. Tim Patrick gone, KJ Hamler gone. Marvin Mims immediately becomes a very intriguing option in the last round of your draft or on the waiver wire. So as we saw from that data earlier, late round guys can absolutely win your league. And the reality is, if you hit on just one of them, just one guy, you have won your league. Now let's say you're drafting tonight and you want to maximize that ceiling even more than I just showed you in this video. If you're looking for a great draft strategy that could do just that, click on this video right here.